You gonna kiss your boy?
Stella, Splash, Simba, Boo, Sammy, Richard, Nancy, Goldie, Ziggy, Ringo, Eva, Hydrox, and Ditto, the Lucky Ferals.
It is 7:45 a.m. and here's Simba. And I want to talk about Simba's really big day because Simba had a very big day yesterday. He's still sleeping because he had such a big day yesterday. So Simba has been vomiting recently, and I've been keeping track of it. It started in the beginning of March, and then 2 weeks later, it really picked up. And so for like the past 3, almost 4 weeks, he's been vomiting 2 to 3 times a week. And twice it's been a hairball. And maybe half the times it's been just some liquid with a little hair before dinner. And then sometimes it's in the middle of the night. Twice it's been a situation where he's just been like puking all night. And that's what happened, not last night, but the night before. So he vomited before dinner. And then he ate a little bit of dinner and then he threw that up. And then like 3 o'clock in the morning, he decided he's going to eat a little bit of dry food. And then he threw that up. And then around 6 o'clock in the morning, he was just throwing up just more liquid. So because he was throwing up so much, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take him to the animal hospital. I'm going to get him checked out. He's been vomiting way too much lately. I just want to make sure everything's okay. Now, I thought maybe it could be stress related because in the past, Simba has vomited due to stress. And of course, the past 2 months in this house have been pretty stressful. The entire month of February was just like off the charts stressful with Stella in the emergency room and then Stella passing away and then Sammy going missing for so long and then Sammy coming back injured. So that really, messed up the routine in the house. And then March was also stressful as we were trying to get back to normal. I was trying to get this channel back onto some kind of a schedule. In the past, Simba has had issues where he'll just be like vomiting for a while and then I'll take him to the doctor and they can't find anything. Also in the past, I have linked Simba's vomiting to catnip, but I haven't really given him any catnip recently, so I didn't know if that could be it. So I said, let me take him. Let me just take him. So we got to the emergency room at 12:40 p.m. and we were there for 6 hours and 20 minutes. I mean, that is insane. And this is the animal hospital that Stella was transferred to. And after we were waiting for so long, like after we were there for 3 hours just waiting, then I was like, this is why I didn't take Stella here to begin with. I mean, it just totally reminded me and validated the fact that I took Stella to the other emergency room because they're so much quicker to get to an animal than this one is. Now, this one is really quick to get to an animal if an animal is in like critical condition or more serious condition. And then what happens is you kind of get bumped back. So after we were waiting there for several hours, then I was starting to feel like, okay, well, they obviously don't think Simba is in like really critical condition. They don't think it's very serious. So it actually made me feel better. Like the longer we were waiting, I was like, okay, well, here we go. We're waiting a long time. So when we went there, we got seen by a triage nurse after about 20 minutes. And then we went to the waiting room and then we didn't get seen by a vet for another 4 hours. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like insane. They don't even have vending machines there, which I mentioned in, my video about my experience with Stella there. And like, as we were waiting, many people in the waiting room are like, I'm just going to go out and get some food and then I'll be back. I mean, it's ridiculous that they don't have any kind of food here. It's a really big place. And this is a very common occurrence where people have to go out to get food. So why don't they at least have some decent vending machines? And the other thing is, when you're waiting for so long, they need to have some kind of like recliners or something. Thankfully, they do have padded benches, so you're not just sitting on like a hard chair. But, even trying to lay down on these padded benches is not exactly comfortable. They need some recliners for people that are there for extended periods of time. But anyway, so I kept asking like anyone who interacted with Simba, I was like, what's your name? What's your name? So I kept track of everything. And the staff member that kept informing us like where we were on the list. Earlier in the day, they're like, yeah, you're number 6. But obviously we kept getting bumped back. And then at one point they're like, you're number 2. And then they're like, you're number 1, you're next. And I'm like, do you know who the doctor's going to be? And then as soon as they found out, they told us. So of course I looked him up. And I was not happy at all to find out that he has his vet license for less than 2 years. So I was like, here we go again. This is like, I'm going to wait, 4 hours for another inexperienced vet. I was not happy with that. But when I looked into it more, I found out that he was actually doing an internship there. So I was like, okay, so this is a little bit different. So he's here in training. He's doing an internship. So that's different than the vets at the emergency rooms who are not doing internships. They're just hired with no experience and put on the floor to be a vet. And they're not trained properly. So I was thinking to myself, okay, well, if he's doing an internship, that means they must have a training program here. And I know that the vets in general are very experienced here, have a lot more experience. So I wasn't happy about it, but Grandpa Farrell was with me. He came to the animal hospital with me because I knew it was going to be a long wait. I didn't think it was going to be that long, but I knew it was going to be long. So he was telling me that he's like, you have to give the guy a chance. He's like, maybe he's really smart. Maybe it's a different situation, because I was not happy. I was even thinking of, should I ask to, be switched to a different vet? But I was like, I'll just give him a chance. So I gave him a chance, and I'm very happy that I did, because even though he was young and even though he only had his vet license for 1 year and 10 months, he was so much more professional than any of the vets at the emergency room. I mean, it was like a day and night difference. And he was trying to be as thorough as he could possibly be. And he was very intelligent, like talking to him was very intelligent. At no time did I feel like I was dealing with someone who was incompetent. And, I never felt like I was dealing with someone who was just pretending to be a vet, which is how I felt at the emergency room that Stella went to. Several hours earlier, when we were in the waiting room, one of the vet techs came out to get Simba because she said that she looked at his information and she was worried that maybe he had a urinary blockage. And I was like, okay, yeah, take him and check him out. I said, but he did use the litter box this morning, so I don't think so, because I scooped a clump of urine out of it. So she's like, well, we're just going to be sure. So they took Simba, checked him out, brought him back, and said that his bladder was small, so he's not blocked. So then, we waited more hours. So then when we were in the exam room with the vet, he said that, everything seemed to be fine from, their previous intake with regards to Simba as far as his vitals go and when they checked out his organs. But, he suggested that we could do a blood test to find out if something more is going on, or if I didn't want to go that route, then we could just talk about some kind of home care for him. So he said, I definitely want to get a blood test for him. That's why I'm here, because I want more information. So we did that. It took an hour and a half to get the results of the blood test. So we had to go back to the waiting room. It was freezing at this point because they turned the air on. And then we finally were called back into the exam room, and we got the results for Simba's blood tests, and everything was fine. Everything was normal. His iron was a little bit high, but it wasn't like abnormally high. It was just at the high end. And the other thing was his creatinine. That was at 2.4. And the vet was like, that's at the highest end of normal for a cat. And that could be a kidney issue, or it could be like a dehydration issue. So I was like, well, Simba's been vomiting. That's why he's here. And for, like the 24 hours before that blood test at that point, he had been vomiting multiple times at home. And also he wasn't eating or drinking. So I said, could that affect that number? Could that number go up that fast? And the vet's like, yeah, that definitely could. So I said, okay, well, do you need to do a urine test or anything like that? And he goes, yeah, well, if we did a urine test, then we could test the urine to see how concentrated it is. Then we could tell if it's from like the dehydration and vomiting or if it's a kidney issue. And I was like, well, how long is that going to take and how much is that going to cost? And he said that shouldn't take long at all, and that'll be like another $130. So I was like, okay, please do that, because I'd rather just get it over with than have to bring him back to the vet. Maybe he won't have urine, because that's what happened to Stella. When she went to the vet in December, they couldn't do a urine test because she didn't have urine. He's like, okay, I'll take him. I'll see if he has urine, then we'll do the test. So we waited another 10 or 15 minutes, and they did the test, and he came back, and he said that Simba's urine was concentrated, so it's definitely more of an issue of dehydration from the vomiting versus a kidney issue. So Simba's kidneys are fine. So that brings us to the fact that he thinks it could be stress related. It could be diet related. He said, sometimes cats will sometimes have an intolerance to a certain kind of protein. And that's when we were discussing like proteins that Simba was having. Because I said, well, recently, because of everyone being so concerned about the bird flu, I've been giving the cats more rabbit, more venison, more beef. So it could be something like that. Maybe one of those is not agreeing with him. And I said in the past, a few years ago, I thought beef was making Simba vomit. I thought there was a connection. So maybe there is a connection with that. Maybe that's what's going on. So I need to now keep like a more detailed diary of exactly which proteins he's eating, when he's vomiting, is there a relationship? Also, the other thing we were talking about is giving Simba maybe an afternoon snack. Because in the past, I noticed that sometimes Simba would vomit in the morning. It would just be like clear liquid with a little cat hair. But if I gave him treats in the middle of the night or a little bit of dry food in the middle of the night, like that's why I have their automatic feeders set up to give them just a little bit of dry food at like 4 a.m. because I found out if I did that, then Simba did not vomit in the morning. So I think I'm going to have to do something like that in the afternoon. So I think maybe 12 hours between meals is too long for Simba because, they've been getting fed. Let's say they get fed 9 a.m. breakfast, then they get 9 p.m. dinner. That's probably too long for him. So what I need to do is give him like a little bit of snack in the afternoon, and then maybe he's not going to vomit like clear liquid and cat hair before dinner. I'm going to work on something like that, see how that goes. The other option is maybe moving their dinner up. So instead of eating like 12 hours after they eat breakfast, maybe moving it up a few hours and then just giving them like a later snack. They were on that kind of schedule for a while. Maybe go back to something like that. I don't know. It's going to be some trial and error, but at least I know Simba's fine. He's healthy. All of his levels are normal. Kidneys, liver, like everything is fine with him. His glucose was fine. There's no issues. So at least that's good. And he slept on the bed most of the night. And as you could see, he's still resting right now. He had such a big day. I mean, I felt so bad for him. He was stuck in that carrier for 6 hours at the animal hospital yesterday. He was not happy. And all he ate for breakfast yesterday was like 2 churros. And then he didn't eat anything the rest of the day. So when he got home, he was pretty hungry, but I didn't want to like fill him up so that he's gonna like vomit again. I gave him another churro and a few pieces of dry food. Then I waited a while and then I gave him a little bit of canned food. He didn't really want that. I gave him some chicken baby food. He really enjoyed that. A little bit more dry food. And then later in the evening, he wanted more dry food. So that's what he had. But I didn't want to give him too much food. I just basically let him decide what he wanted to eat. And then he slept almost the entire night on the bed. He got up a few times, hung out in the living room with Splash, but he's very, very happy to be home. Right, Simba? Here's Boo. Good morning, Boo. Hello, Boo. Good morning. Now, I should also mention that the reason why I asked Grandpa Farrell to come to the animal hospital with me is because the night before, Simba had been vomiting pretty much all night. I only got 4 hours of sleep. And for me to get 4 hours of sleep means I do not function well the next day at all. And I was so like anxious. The anxiety came back, so I wasn't eating. Like I had to force myself to eat some kind of breakfast before I went to the animal hospital. I also had to take some snacks with me in my bag. I took juice with me. I took some of the hard ginger candies. I took some of the theanine candies, and then I took water, and then I took just like pieces of almond cake, homemade almond cake, which I know that settles my digestive system, and it's something that I could eat. That's like a safe food. It's not going to cause like digestive distress. So I took some of that with me, and that got me through the day. I had to like literally force myself to eat it throughout the day, just like a little piece. It wasn't a lot by any means. I just needed enough energy to get me through the day. I've been using my Garmin fitness watch to track my stress levels and my sleep and my energy levels and my heart rate variability. And this is yesterday. So this figure up here is my body battery. It went all the way down to 5, and 5 is the lowest it can go. And it stayed at 5 for like the rest of the afternoon and the evening. That's how exhausted I was yesterday. Like I don't need a watch to tell me that, but it's really interesting to see how accurate this watch is. And like, I just knew, I was like, yeah, I have no energy. And that's as low as it goes. Goes as low as 5 and never goes any lower. And then we could see it says I had a stressful day. High stress today has drained your battery. On days like this, try to take breaks and consider some light exercise or outdoor activities. Now it's time to wind down and relax before bedtime to help you sleep better. So my watch actually gave me that message around 9 p.m. yesterday. And this is the timeline with the stress in it. So, I started the day at midnight. Blue is good. That means you're resting, or rested until about 8 a.m. And then once I got up, the stress was off the charts. Like that's when I made the decision, okay, I'm going to take Simba to the animal hospital today. And then look at this. Now this peak here was around the time that we got to the animal hospital. It was around 12:30, 12:45. And all this solid stress, and all this solid stress is when I was at the animal hospital with Simba. And you can see it peaks a few times. But that's how accurate this watch is. It really does a great job of tracking this. And here it shows my stress score. It was 38, which for me is really high. It says you had very few restful moments on this day. Remember to slow down and relax to keep yourself going. This was my sleep score from yesterday, and it says I had very poor sleep. I slept for 4 hours and 54 minutes, but I think I actually got only around 4 hours. It says short, unbalanced sleep stages. You slept too little and your overall quality was low. Your sleep may have suffered because of low physical activity yesterday. You may feel more tired than usual today. Well, that's not why my sleep suffered. My sleep suffered because Simba was vomiting all night. So it's 9:30 a.m. and here's Boo. I wanted to show him you on this bag because this is like his favorite thing to do right now. I put this bag here the other day thinking Sammy or one of the lucky 7 might like to go inside of it. Well, it ends up that Boo just wants to lay on top of it. This is his favorite place to lay. I don't know if he likes how it crinkles, but he loves sitting on it. How you doing, Boo? How you doing, Boo? And here's Simba. You gonna kiss your boy? That's so nice. That's so nice, Simba. Boo gave you a nice little kiss. Good job, Boo. You're a good daddy. You're a good daddy, Boo. I want to talk about Simba, but Boo wants some attention right now. I just looked through my notes with regards to Simba, and I said, let me look through the meal plans because I've been doing meal plans for the past few weeks, and let's see if I could correlate his vomiting to any specific meals. Unfortunately, I only started doing meal plans maybe like 2-3 weeks ago. For a while, I was doing them in the past, and then with what happened to Stella, and then with Sammy going missing, I stopped doing the meal plans. But I've been working on putting together like a planner for the cats just to keep everything really organized in one place. And I've just been testing out layouts. So I looked at the past few weeks where I've been doing that, and from what I could tell, other than when Simba vomits before a meal, if he vomits like sometime after a meal, over the past few weeks, it's been when he's eaten rabbit. And to me, that's interesting because that never happened in the past. In the past, the cats loved rabbit. Nobody had any problems with it. But recently, I've been buying rabbit at one of the local markets. It's like a Russian supermarket. That's the only place that has the rabbit legs. I don't want to buy a whole rabbit and have to cut it up myself. Like I could not do that. So I've been just getting the legs and then putting them through the grinder. It could be that there's a correlation between that and Simba's vomiting, just for some of them. So we're going to have to see about that. But for the prior weeks, I had not been writing down exactly like what they were eating and when they were eating it. And I think it's really important to keep a meal plan for pets. Even if I only had like 1 or 2 cats, I would still want to do that, because if something happens where a cat ends up like vomiting or with a health issue, then you have the information. You could look back on it and be like, oh, okay, I can see a correlation. Oh, I do see a pattern here. So that's been helpful this morning to look at that. The other thing I'm thinking of is leaving dry food out for the cats. So this is one of the automatic feeders that I use in the middle of the night to give the cats a little bit of dry food. Now, this is more dry food than they would normally get in here. The reason why is because, yesterday's schedule was so messed up. Splash didn't really eat his dinner, and Simba only had a little bit of dinner. Same thing for Boo. So I said, I'll give them a tablespoon of crunchies in each of these compartments, and if they want, they could eat it overnight. And as you can see, there's still a lot of crunchies here. This is one of the other feeders, and this one was eaten. And this is the other feeder, and this still has crunchies in it also. Now, this has a different brand of crunchies than the other ones. And when I say crunchies, I mean dry cat food. So in the past, like when Stella was here, I was never able to just leave dry food out for the cats because she would eat it all. And I do have to say that Simba has been guilty of that in the past, and Boo has been guilty of that in the past. So in the past, where I've tried like leaving dry food out for the cats, like it would be gone sometimes within minutes, and I'd be like, okay, well, that's not going to work. Or someone would gorge on it, and then I would have piles of regurgitated crunchies all over the house. But now I'm wondering what would happen if I tried that, because that way Simba could take a few nibbles whenever he wanted to, and maybe that would stop his vomiting before meals if he was able to, nibble on a few crunchies whenever he felt like his stomach needed that. The other main reason why I haven't been able to leave dry food out for the cats is because of ants. And I really don't want to jinx that, but so far this year, I've not seen any ants in the house. Usually by now, I've seen them, but I think with the new landscaper that I have, they put down pesticides in the yard that have been really controlling the ants better, because I know last year wasn't as bad as previous years. I do have some raised cat bowls that I might use for that and see how it goes. Just as an experiment. I have been against free feeding dry cat food because I just don't think it's healthy for cats to only eat dry food. They definitely need moisture in their diets. And also the dry cat foods do have more carbs in them than wet cat foods do. However, after what happened to Stella, I am very much a proponent of balance when it comes to foods that cats are consuming. Here's Splash. Good morning, Splashy. So considering the fact that when they get homemade food, there's very few carbs in the homemade food. We're talking less than 5% carbs, probably only 2 or 3% carbs most of the time. So they're getting extremely low carbs. So if they're getting some dry food with, 10, 20, 30% carbs, and it's only a very small portion of their diet, like a snack, then that's just going to balance itself out. And I honestly think that balance like that is very important. So right now I am just thinking out loud, but that is what I'm thinking about. I might want to give that a try also and see if Simba vomits less with regards to that. Also, then I would not have to set up these automatic feeders every night, because if I just had like maybe 2 feeding stations with a little bit of food and some water, maybe that would be better. However, what I think will happen is when the lucky 7 come upstairs, they're just going to devour all the crunchies in it. Because Nancy is a crunchy fiend. She's very much like Stella. Like, she'll just keep eating the crunchies with no stopping. It's 4 p.m. and I was just sitting here in the sun by the back door getting my vitamin D. Let me show you who's been hanging out with me. Hopefully he won't move. He might move, though. Look who's been hanging out with me. It's Cousin Oliver, or Ox. I didn't see him before, but now all of a sudden I get up to go inside, and here he is. So I'm going to put my chair away, and then I'll give him some food. But it's a beautiful day to be out here. Like, I would be out here even longer if I didn't have so many other things to do. I'm thinking I might go for a little walk, maybe 20 minutes, just because I haven't really done any exercise recently. It is 4:15 p.m. Here's Boo. Here's Simba. I just gave Boo some canned food that I put together for Ox, and Boo likes to taste it. I don't expect him to eat much of it, but he likes to lick it. And this is going to be kind of a test for Simba today, because there are still some crunchies in this feeder, and he does have a little bit of food left from his breakfast. I don't expect him to eat that, but the crunchies are available, so if he wants to nibble on a few of those before dinner, he can. It is 10 p.m. and here's Simba. He's on the couch cushion. This is like new for him. He hasn't been up here in a very long time. Let me tell you what happened. So Simba ate almost all of his dinner in the kitchen. Then I said, you want a little bit more of the freeze-dried chicken on what's left? Like, he left probably like 1/6 of his meal. Like, he ate the majority of it. So I put a little bit more freeze-dried chicken on it, sprinkled a little bit of fortiflora on it, and then he finished his meal. And Splash finished his meal. And Boo was not eating his meal. For whatever reason, Boo was not eating it. But what I do with Boo is I give him some extra time. And I went downstairs. I gave the Lucky 7 their dinner. And then I came back upstairs and I was cleaning up the kitchen a little bit. But then I walked into this room and I saw that half of Boo's plate was eaten. So I was like, wow, did Boo eat his food? Like, did he eat half of his food? That would be great. So I looked at the security camera footage and guess who ate Boo's food? Simba. So not only did Simba eat his own dinner, but he ate half of Boo's dinner. Now this is great for Simba because, Simba has been throwing up a lot recently. He hasn't really had the best appetite. Like, he's been eating his food, but sometimes it's really challenging for me to get him to eat his food. And sometimes he hasn't been eating his wet food and he's just been eating mostly dry food. But today, Simba ate all of his wet food and he ate half of Boo's. So he looks a little bit full right now. Like, he looks like he wants to take a nap, like he's tired, which is fine. I'm just so proud of you, Simba. So maybe by giving Simba a few extra snacks before dinner, it helps to bring his appetite back. Maybe when he wasn't eating between his meals, he was getting more nauseous, and that's why he was vomiting up some like clear liquid along with some like cat hair. So maybe this is going to be the solution. Simba had like one of those squeeze-up spoons, the like squeeze-up cups, a little bit before dinner. He also had a few crunchies and a few treats. So I'm really proud of him. Hopefully the rest of the night will go well and he'll just relax and digest his food. Meanwhile, here's Boo. Now, Boo did not eat his dinner. He took a few bites of it, but that was it. However, this afternoon, when I was feeding Ox or Cousin Oliver, I gave Boo some of the canned food from the can that I opened for him. It was some of the the 9 Lives. I think it was the meaty pate. Not the best food, but sometimes Boo really likes that food. And I was absolutely surprised that he ate all the food that I gave him. I didn't give him like a full portion. It wasn't like 3 ounces of food. It was maybe like, I don't know, 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces. But I was surprised that he ate it all. So what I'm going to do right now is finish cleaning up the kitchen. I'm going to load the dishwasher. And then what I'll do is I'll open a can of food for Boo, or I'll see if I have a can open in the refrigerator, like some leftovers he might want to finish, or I'll open a new can for him. I'll see. I'll just offer him some more wet food if he wants it. If he doesn't want it, I'll just leave it out. Maybe he'll eat it later. Maybe Splash or Simba will eat it. And I'm thinking of, I don't know, maybe I won't do crunchy time for them. Maybe I'll just put some crunchies in the feeders for them so they could have it if they want it. Right, Boo? Thank you for watching this Lucky Ferals video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you'd like me to post more videos, and please make sure to check out these other videos that were selected especially for you.